Hi, my name is Dr. Jessica Herring-Watson. I'm an assistant professor at the University of Central Arkansas in the College of Education, and I'm excited to share with you some ways that we can prepare special educators to teach online. Specifically, this presentation talks about exploring the utility of the UTAUT, which is a theoretical framework related to technology acceptance and use. The work that I'm going to share today is work that I did in collaboration with my colleagues, Drs. Corduff and Lee, and Dr. Robinson Zapkew and Dr. Perkins at the University of Memphis. So, what is the UTAUT? The UTAUT, that's an acronym for a longer theoretical framework title, the Unified Theory of Acceptance and Use of Technology. It was first developed by Venkatesh and colleagues to examine the factors that contribute to a person's willingness to use a new technology. So, it's been applied in a variety of ways to look at specific technologies. However, the factors for the UTAUT are universal, looking at a person's actual use of the tool, the facilitating conditions, so kind of those environmental factors or contextual factors that would make it easier for a person to adopt or use a new technology, social influence, what do other people think about whether or not I should employ this technology, performance expectancy, and then finally, effort expectancy. How difficult is it going to be for me to adopt and use this new technology? So, in the context of the studies that we conducted, we looked at this through a special education online teaching lens. With this research team, we developed the What Have We Learned, the School to Home Assistive Technology Use Survey. And we were trying to ascertain teachers' perceptions and experiences of assistive technology and AAC devices within virtual and hybrid learning settings, specifically during the COVID-19 pandemic. So many special education students rely on assistive technology and AAC devices for communication. And during the pandemic, special educators had to navigate, how do I help a parent learn to use these devices in an online teaching and learning setting where I'm not in the same shared space and I'm having to deliver instructions about how to use these technological devices in either asynchronous environments, right, where we're not even in a Zoom call together communicating, or synchronously, but where we don't have access to the same shared screen, right? Or we cannot tangibly touch the device and work with it together as a team to support the learner. And so when we were looking at the UTAUT in the couple of studies that we used this survey for, we were looking at actual use, facilitating conditions, social influence. You can think about some of the different social influences you might have in that context, right? The parents' perceptions of how much or how little we should use the AT and AAC devices, the student's perception of the tool and how easy it might be to use, administrators' perceptions or influences about how we might need to use the tool or their supportiveness, and even IT, right? What kind of technical support am I getting and what kind of encouragement am I getting from IT to employ these devices? And then also performance expectancy. And we looked at effort expectancy in two specific ways. So how much does the teacher perceive the student will have to put out effort to use the device effectively? And then how much effort does the teacher perceive that they will have to put out and that parents as supporters or, family members in the home will have to put out in order to support the student in the use of the device? So you can see a little bit how we've defined these specific constructs, right? So actual use is the use of AT or AAC in the virtual setting. Facilitating condition is the belief that the necessary resources and infrastructure will be available to use the tool. So do they have access to online resources, to IT support, to technical infrastructure, to training? Social influences, as we discussed, is the importance of the expectations and opinions of others. In this case, we were looking specifically at the other teachers' expectations, parents, and then the child or the student, or the child who is the student. Performance expectancy is a belief that there's a benefit, right, to using the tool to support learning. Like this is going to make the performance better or enhance the learning experience. Effort expectancy of the student we talked about is the student's ease of use. And then effort expectancy for the teacher or parent is ease of use for the adult who is supporting the learner in their use of AT-AAC. So I'm going to leave this slide up for just a moment. You can pause the recording if you want to scan these QR codes to look at the studies that are underlying some of the practical applications that I'm about to share with you. There's a mixed methods study, so there's the use of this survey, but also a qualitative component that included interviews with special educators, sharing their lived experiences of supporting online special education students in their use of AT and AC. And then a predictive correlational study that looked at how we might use this tool as a predictive measure for special educators' use of assistive technology. So let's talk about practical applications for special educators who are teaching online. I'm going to share 4 big ideas about how you could apply this research in a more practical context. So the first is that as a special educator who's teaching online, it's valuable to focus on students' technology comfort and ease of use, right? So our research shows that special educators are more likely to implement assistive technology when they perceive that the student can easily use the tool. So when teaching online, scaffolding and gradual release can be very valuable. Start with simpler assistive technology tools, things like text-to-speech, and gradually introduce more complex tools. Many devices have built-in assistive or accessibility tools that learners can use in the online learning space. And so scaffolding your introduction of those to learners to ensure that we don't overwhelm them with too many tools all at once can be helpful. Another way that we can facilitate ease of use is by creating step-by-step guides with screenshots that students and their families can use to support their use of AT, scheduling dedicated time to practice using technology before we apply it to content area learning, and then providing troubleshooting resources that are accessible online, both asynchronously or student paced and in real time, right? So there are many resources online to troubleshoot. So being aware of those resources and being able to provide them proactively before it's requested can be very valuable. Another thing we can do is leverage social influence. So our studies indicate that social influence significantly predicts assistive technology implementation. So it's important to create opportunities for peer modeling so that special educators can see one another working with assistive technology alongside their students to show how that is valuable and useful in the learning process. Share success stories of how others have benefited from specific assistive technology tools. Knowing that it's worth the effort often can increase a person's likelihood of adopting assistive technologies and using them alongside their learners. We can build parent or family buy-in through demonstrations of assistive technology effectiveness if we're working with students in a synchronous or a live setting, showing how it can enhance the learning experience to use these tools. And then finally, collaborating with other educators and related service providers to be sure we're providing consistent messaging about assistive technology use and how we are supporting its use in the learning environment. We also want to be sure we're establishing strong homeschool partnerships. This was a big finding, especially from that mixed methods study. Remote or online learning requires family support for assistive technology implementation. So ensuring that we are not just focusing on special educator expertise, but also family expertise, providing that training on specific assistive technology tools that will benefit the learner through virtual sessions, creating short instructional videos demonstrating assistive technology that are easy to reference and find so that families can have that just-in-time support when they need it, establishing opportunities for regular check-ins with family about how things are going using these tools to support learning, and then creating some backup tools or low-tech alternatives when the technology fails. We've all been in situations where the technology failed at a pivotal moment and it created a frustration that sometimes what might make us not want to use that tool again in the future. If we have a ready to go backup available, it ensures that families feel supported in using the tool, but knowing that there's always a plan B available. And then finally, simplifying assistive technology selection and implementation. So reducing that effort expectancy barrier and making it feel easy to adopt these technologies. So we can create curated lists of recommended assistive technology tools rather than providing families with lots of options, really provide personalized support so that the assistive technology we suggest is tailored to that specific learner's needs. Focusing on assistive technology tools that work across a variety of platforms and on multiple devices, developing templates and starter materials that incorporate assistive technology features, and then finally, considering universal design approaches that benefit all learners in this space. So I always like to say what is necessary for some is good for every learner. If we provide those built-in accessibility tools and resources to support them to every learner in the online environment, then we're ensuring everyone benefits and those who really need that tool for success have access to it. A few ways that teacher educators can apply the UTAUT model are listed here. So again, I'm going to give you four options or four tips. One, restructuring professional development. So whether you're working with in-service special educators or pre-service teachers, considering how you might redesign professional learning to address all of the UTAUT components. So including hands-on practice to reduce that barrier to entry and encourage them to consider that it's going to be easy to use this tool, right? Reducing that effort expectancy. Demonstrating measurable student outcomes. So this is worth your time. Here are some success stories that I would like to share with you to support that learning these tools is worth your time. Providing testimonials from respected educators who have successfully implemented assistive technology. So building that social influence with their peers or colleagues, and then ensuring that teachers have access to necessary hardware, software, and support. So creating those contextual facilitating conditions that support use and lower that barrier to entry again. We also can incorporate UTAUT-based assessment as kind of like a pre-assessment or a diagnostic to provide more tailored professional learning to educators. So I shared about the survey that we created. You could use that survey beyond a research context in just a practical way. To evaluate teacher readiness for assistive technology implementation. Use it as a needs assessment to determine where the educators that you're working with or the pre-service teachers you're working with need the most support so that then you can restructure your professional development in a way that best serves those teachers' specific needs. Creating those targeted interventions, and then also creating some reflection tools around those constructs within the UTAUT to help educators identify their own personal barriers to AT adoption. You can also focus on building culture around AT use. So really thinking about how we cultivate social influence that is positive and that focuses on learning new things and learning new technologies for the benefit of students. So helping administrators and educators understand the importance of creating positive social influence for assistive technology adoption to support special education students, developing mentor programs where tech-savvy educators can support those who are a little more hesitant toward adoption and use, creating communities of practice focused on AT implementation, and then establishing some recognition systems to celebrate when educators are adopting these technologies for the benefit of their learners. And then finally, developing some differentiated support systems. Rather than adopting a one-size-fits-all assistive technology training, tailoring your support to those diagnostic tools we can use, like the survey, to ensure that what we're doing is meeting educators, special educators where they are and supporting their learning. I hope that this has been helpful, that these practical strategies give you some ideas about how you can further enhance your own work in the field. Thank you for your time. If you have questions, you can always email me.